You know, we've been looking forward to this day for a long time. For the past few months, we've been looking forward to this study that started the 1st of October called I Said This, You Heard That. And I believe that not only does this study have the potential to change our interactions, to change the way that we really even see the world through different eyes, that it has the potential to change every part of your life. To those of you who are married, if you buy into this material, it can dramatically influence the way you relate to your husband or wife. To those of you who have children, or if you're a grandparent, if you're a teacher or a social worker, if anywhere you have influence in the life of a child, this study has the potential to be a game changer. If you're in a job where you look around at your coworkers around you and you're going, I don't get them at all, this study can help. Or maybe you're that employer and you're looking at your employees and you're thinking, how in the world could I help them? I mean, I don't get them. This study is for you. And if you're a member at NorthField, or if you've been thinking about joining us, you know that at NorthField, our mission statement is this. We're going to say it together. I want you to say it loud with me. The NorthField Church exists to... And we took that from the two greats in Scripture, the Great Commandment and the Great Commission. In Matthew chapter 22, it's one of those surprising texts, if you will. It's one of those texts where the religious leaders are once again trying to trap Jesus. They're trying to get him to incriminate himself with his own words, or they're trying to turn the Jewish people away from him because, man, the crowds that are following him are tremendous. The Pharisees, who in my mind are red, they're the red personalities because they lead off in Matthew chapter 22 a discussion with Jesus like this. Is it lawful to pay tribute to Caesar? What they're talking about is money and taxes. When have you ever found it to be a good thing to lead off the discussion talking about money and taxes? Generally, not good out there. But that's how they lead off. And they think they've got Jesus trapped. Because somehow in there, if Jesus says, well, yeah, you need to give Caesar what's his, well, the Jewish people are going to get mad at him because they think Caesar's already taken too much. And if he comes along and says, well, no, don't give tribute to Caesar, don't pay taxes to Caesar, then they've got him as well because Rome will come and get him for insurrection. I'm not going to tell you how it turns out. I'm going to have you go home and read Matthew chapter 22 for that. But let's just say this. Matthew says that what Jesus did silenced the Pharisees. Like, they didn't have nothing else to say because he just blew their minds. Well, then he goes on. The Pharisees weren't able to do it, so the Sadducees come up to Jesus. And the Sadducees are looking at, and they got to think about the resurrection. They don't really believe in it. And they bring Jesus this incredible statement that chances are would never happen. But you've got this lady. She has 7 or 8 husbands. I don't remember how many she has. Every one of them, they're brothers to each other, and they all keep dying. Well, by the time I was the 7th or 8th brother, and I was supposed to marry this lady, I would say, not on your life. I have looked at what has happened to the others. If you marry this lady, you are going down. I'm not having any part of it. But anyway, they posed this incredible question. Well, she's had all these husbands. Whose husband will she be in the resurrection? To which Jesus, again, Matthew says, silenced the Sadducees. And you'll have to go home and read how he did that. But then one of the Pharisees who thought, well, my group of people, maybe they didn't explain it right. So he comes back and he tries to do it on his own. Matthew tells us that he's a lawyer and he is an expert in the law. So he steps up to Jesus with a question that I feel he would have known the answer to himself. Well, let me say a question that he would have known part of the answer. He looks at Jesus and he says, teacher, of all the commandments in the law, which is the greatest? I mean, of all the ones we have, which is top dog out there? Jesus responds like this. Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest of all the commandments. Well, if you know much about our mission statement, that's where we got the first part, love God. And I think at that point, this lawyer, not knowing what to say, because that would have been his answer. I don't know what he thought Jesus was going to say, but that was the answer that he would have taught people. It goes all the way back to the book of Deuteronomy when the children of Israel were about to go in to the promised land. And, their leaders look at them and they say, if you want to live long, if you want to prosper in the land, this is what you need to do. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And so he would have been thinking, well, he said the answer I'm thinking. And in my mind, I don't know, I wasn't there, but in my mind, he starts to walk away, to which I think Jesus is like, hey, Mr. Lawyer Man, come on back over here. Come on back. And the lawyer man turns around. He comes back, again in my mind. And Jesus looks to him. And Jesus says something that would have gone right to the core of this lawyer, would have shaken him. He says, and the second is like it. And all of a sudden, this lawyer man would have heard something in a language that when we read it in English, we're not used to seeing it. So you see, we say second and we think as in second place. We think second and we think as in behind the first, don't we? There's a first and there's one that's under it, and it is the second. But this man didn't speak English, and neither did Jesus speak English. And what Jesus was saying when he says, and the second is like it, that word is the same as. What Jesus really tells him, you thought there was one first and greatest commandment. I'm going to tell you there are two first and greatest commandments. And all of a sudden, Jesus looks to this guy, and he had to be thinking, well, what in the world is the second? Because what Jesus is going to say is this: if you think you've done the first and you fail at the second, well, then you have already failed at the first. Jesus says, if you want to know what the second first and greatest commandment is, here it is: and you shall love your neighbor like you love yourself. And in a moment on planet Earth, Jesus connects loving God to the way we love and relate and connect to each other. So as we go through this message today and over the next month, as you go through this study in your small groups, what I hope that it does for each of us is allow us to get to the point where we learn to love our neighbors better, where we can live out that second, first, and greatest commandment. Here's a point we all need to remember as we go through this today. Communication is not just about what's said. Communication is also about what's heard. What's on the other side of that? So to help us grasp some of this material is a lady that we have been looking forward to having for several months now. When I asked Kathleen to send me a bio, what she sent was this. It wasn't very long. She said, I have one goal in life, and it's to help people learn to speak kindly to one another. She's certified in biblical studies and Christian counseling psychology and has spent 30 years coaching clients in the art of communication. She is married to Brad, has 2 grown children that you will hear about, and has a surprising passion for martial arts. So I'm going to make sure I'm very nice to her today. I don't want to get kicked. And pickup trucks. So NorthField family, help me welcome Kathleen Edelman.
Thanks.
Welcome, welcome. Hey, notice I know you're blue, so I didn't hug you like I did earlier.
Not only not hug, but let's keep arms distance. Okay.
Okay. I'll stay over here with my notes. Kathleen, good to have you with us today.
Thank you, NorthField, for having me.
Just start out by telling our church family a little bit about yourself.
Well, I have been coaching communication and temperaments for over 30 years, and how that came about was I taught communication, but then on a trip from California to Maryland, I heard these cassette tapes. Anybody know what cassette tapes are? All right. Do you know a pencil and cassette tape? Okay, that really gives away your age. So these cassette tapes were about temperament. And I knew right then I had to learn everything I possibly could know about temperaments because they affect communication. And so my family scripture verse is Ephesians 4:29. Do not let any unwholesome words come out of your mouth, only what will build others up according to their needs and benefit all who listen. And what I found on this journey, though, is even small, I would watch people speak to other people unkindly, and I never really understand why they had to do that. But where I found it first and foremost starts is with you. Nobody talks to you more than yourself. So when we're thinking first, we have to think of Proverbs. And in Proverbs, it says, on your tongue lays the power of life or death. So we first and foremost have to realize, what are we saying to ourselves? Because we cannot give what we don't have. And so understanding the temperaments is going to give you the skills to understand every word that you use is a word that you choose. And it's in that first sentence of Ephesians 4:29. Paul challenges us. Do not let, circle that word, any unwholesome words. Unwholesome meaning unhelpful or unhealthy. And so from that point on, that's what I've been doing. That's been my mission.
I absolutely love it. And when you're talking about that, I told you before, and you got to meet her. My wife is green, I'm red, and
Yes.
and we've had our challenges to overcome. Why is it that two people can hear the same words, but they land differently on them?
It's because each temperament speaks its own language. So each temperament, and there's 4 of them, speak and hear out of their innate temperament that God wired you to be. So hence the cover of the book, right? I said this, you heard that. When you talk and you're red, she's a lovely green wife, she hears in her green. And then she speaks in green and he hears in red. So there's all this gray area here, and we're trying to eliminate the gray area. See, most people just talk.
I live in the gray area,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to move to the sides.
Okay, I think you live in the gray area. I think you want to think you do, because I think you're telling people like you're a little of all the colors. I think that's what I'm hearing.
I told you I got my blue on because I did the assessment. I'm mostly red, but I had an equal amount towards the assessment of blue and yellow. You know how long it took me to find this tie in here, and I have a hint of green. I'm kind of like a mixed drink, a hint of lime in there. Not that I'm advocating mixed drinks or anything. It's like
Okay, people. You get to come and hear him every Sunday, right? Okay, just the pure speed that he speaks is exhausting to me. He has no blue in him. Don't let him try to fool you. This man has no blue. The yellow part of him wants to be a little bit of everything, but you got to pick team.
Oh, well, I know, and I love that it's all rooted, it's rooted in something. And when
Yes.
I hear this, it's not only the same words, but our actions. Like on
Yes.
my birthday, it doesn't bother me. If we go out to eat and if they bring the sombrero and they bring the whipped cream, and I can have a whole mariachi band and I'm ready to go. I did that to my wife who's green and my daughter who's green, and they didn't say it in the moment, but I could tell in their eyes,
They were
I'm
mortified.
a dead man.
Yeah. You were lucky you got home that night, right?
I was.
Yeah.
There was
Because again, what's fun for one temperament's not necessarily fun for another. And this is why I love what I do, because what I'm wanting to do is to empower you to understand your authentic self, advocate for yourself, but be able to speak kindly to the person that you're talking to. See, most people just talk. I want to teach communication, which is the exchange of thoughts and emotions and feelings. And hopefully when you go through the studies and you start speaking the languages fluently of the other temperaments, you will learn the art of communication, which is that every word that comes out of your mouth is a gift to the person that you're speaking to. Like, I cannot know that this man's red now. I would have to choose not to speak kindly to him. But I already know that he's red. So I'm going to have to get rid of the gray area and speak so that he can hear me.
And I wore red so that you would not be confused.
Oh, no, I'm not confused. You could have wore a tomato sack and I would have filled it.
I didn't want to trick you up. So our next slide here. I think as I've looked at this in the past a little bit, I had thought that when I heard the words temperament and personality, I kind of put them in the same bundle, but they're really not there, are they?
No, they're not the same. So temperament is innate, personality is constantly evolving. So if you've done assessments like Myers-Briggs, DISC, the Enneagram has now resurfaced, all those are personality assessments. They're telling you about you. Temperament was studied 600 years before Jesus walked the earth. And what he studied, Hippocrates studied, was how people naturally responded to different situations. And they fell into 4 categories, hence the temperaments. So what we have, I think we have a chart. These are the original Greek names by a physician named Galen, about 60 AD. Sanguine, choleric, melancholy, and phlegmatic. They were originally thought to be the humor or the fluid of the body. So hence, blood, yellow bile, black bile, and sorry, greens, but phlegm.
I'm not sure I even like the bile up here.
At least you're yellow bile. I'm black bile.
Oh, yeah, I'd rather be yellow bile, I think.
And we're both married to
That
phlegms.
means, yellow, doesn't that infer infection? I'm infectious?
Yeah, you're infectious, sir. That's exactly how I would describe you. scary, infectious. So when you do the assessment that is temperament driven, right? It is you have a dominant and secondary. It's horizontal or vertical, never diagonal. So again, you are innately wired for God's purpose. It even says that over and over in Scripture. And through understanding your design, again, then you can learn to pour into other people.
You know, when I look at these, as you begin to talk about these in extrovert, introvert, go into that a little bit, because it was fascinating to me.
Well, what you have to find out is that learning the temperaments, you're going to learn them in layers, okay? And what makes you fluent in other temperaments is applying them. It would be no different than if we were learning a foreign language, right? He speaks totally foreign to me. So I would have to learn his language. But where it starts is just simplicity. Extrovert, introvert, and what the true meaning of that is. So the top two, we use colors and not the Greek names. The red and the yellow are extroverts. And in communication, that means that their thoughts and emotions go outward. These people have no filter. So they are just gonna something right out. They either are gonna go, oh my gosh, I didn't know, I shouldn't have said that so loud. Or they just needed to know. I just was saving them from getting hurt. You know, they talk before they think.
I do that.
Yeah. Let me register surprise. Right? The blue and the green, which is me, we are completely polar opposite, if you haven't already guessed that. I'm blue-green. So blue-green's introverts, we are inward processors. If somebody says something to me, I'm going to take it inwardly and I'm going to process it before I speak. So I think before I talk. So right there's your first temperament lesson. The second temperament lesson is people versus tasks. So the red and the blue, task-oriented. They wake up in the morning with a goal. They're going to accomplish something. They're going to get something done, right? And the yellow and the green are people-oriented. They want connection, relationship, some other person. We're the very interesting, and we both have married a green, this is an introvert that's people-oriented. See, that's why you have to understand the communication definitions, because that doesn't sound right, does it? And this green is one that kind of falls through the cracks sometimes. But absolutely, by far, the best leader of people is a green.
I know that you said here, and one of the things that I've tried to watch out for, so red, task-oriented, I remember one of the statements you made, and one of the, like, this lady has gone viral, like almost 7 million hits on a video. So just
Terrifying.
Incredible stuff. But I saw in one of those that red, if we're not careful, we can make people feel like the task.
Exactly.
Which is
because what's unique to a red is their ability to be a visionary. So you see from A to B very clearly. But sometimes reds, when they're unhealthy reds, they're so focused on B that they don't realize how many bodies they've left in the past. Or the tasks or the people become tasks because their whole motto is just do it. I want to be efficient. Usually, too, my way's the best way, right? Does that sound familiar?
Oh,
your wife just told me, so.
All too familiar. I have, like, this is not good to tell people this, but like for all you husbands that have said the wrong thing, I have before, like, at the moment I said, if you had just done it the way I said to do it to begin with, we would be like.
We would be.
Like.
So if you're coming this afternoon, you'll learn the 2+2 rule that I will be teaching him, that other people can be right. You know, I know it's going to be hard, but.
I know. I'm
you can do
for
it. I believe in you.
Well, hey, I love that you came up with 3 things. If
Yes.
we wanted to put this into practice and
Yes.
so what could we walk away with here? You've got 3 statements to kind of lead us through a practical way to put this into our lives as we leave today. So take off with number 1 there with us.
Well, the first is your temperament determines the words that you speak. So again, you speak out of your temperament. Each temperament has its own unique strengths and weaknesses. And what we're trying to do every day is when we come up to a fork in the road, whatever the circumstance is in front of us, you're either going to pick a strength or a weakness per your temperament. And you're going to understand that when we talk about innate needs. But God was very intentional. He gave us weaknesses so we would know our strengths. We know it's light in here because we know dark. We know loud because we know quiet. He wanted us to know our strengths but be able to manage our weaknesses. So when we are speaking, we have to make sure that whatever circumstance we're coming in, that we're not picking a weakness and speaking out of the temperament's weakness, because over here is flesh and ego. The circumstance is going to control you. But if you come over here where the Holy Spirit sits, the same circumstance is going to come in, but the Holy Spirit's going to guide you through it. But you have to know the strengths of your temperament. So again, what words do I speak? Why do I behave the way I behave? How can I understand the wiring? And most of all, how do I understand the gray area of the person that's standing in front of me? How can I adjust so that I can speak a language that they can hear? So when you walk away from them, they feel more heard and understood.
So if you lead us through these, go through the language that each of these, and I love colors.
Yes.
Because I have trouble even saying the other words, the body fluids.
And that's exactly why we put colors. So the sanguine speaks the language of people and fun. This is a person that's inspiring, encouraging, fun to be around. They're great storytellers. This is a great, you felt like you were at the Mexican restaurant when he was saying it. Okay, but boom, they can also interrupt, exaggerate and elaborate, be too loud. So again, they have to understand their language and then their strengths and weaknesses. The choleric, power and control. This is somebody that speaks power and control. They're decisive, they're independent, they delegate well, they excel in emergencies. How are they going to know that? Because they can be bossy, impatient, dislikes tears and emotions. Again, the strengths and weaknesses of the temperament are your first cheat sheets to learn to speak the other language. The blues, I speak the language of perfection and order. So this is a temperament that's detailed, analytical, logical. We're creative, musical, compassionate, empathetic. I could go on and on about the blues. Our strengths are on and on.
Off the charts.
Just good. But we do have some weaknesses. We can be moody, critical, judgmental, right? But we're going to speak perfection and order. The green, calm and harmony all day long. This is an innately kind person that's consistent of character, a great listener, a fabulous leader of people, but they can be unenthusiastic, very, very stubborn, and have no sense of urgency. Guess what I did this last month? I've been married 34 years. I have a forest green husband, and you know what I did last month? Went on my honeymoon. That's the definition of no sense of urgency, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, I think we had and I love walking through these things. So I think the next screen shows sanguines. They often speak like this, and what are things we hear them say?
Yeah, they speak fun, exaggerated people. So yellows, if you think you're yellow out there, this is you. You're going to say things like, that sounds fun. Come join in. Oh, I totally forgot. Who's going to be there, right?
So they can schedule the party and then forget the party.
Absolutely. They're the first to volunteer, though. You need to know this for your team. If there's a volunteer, those yellows are raising their hand.
Oh, yes.
And the next thing you know, they're going, "Ooh, is that Thursday I was supposed to be there? Oh, I double booked. Silly me," right?
I feel your pain. I feel your pain.
Reds, they speak bold, bossy, confident words. This is somebody who, if you have a red in your life, bullet point, bottom line. Leave out the fluff. Even if it's something that's a conflict, they would rather you say it right to them than beat around the bush. They're going to say things like this: I'll do it. Hurry up. Follow my lead. Right? They're just bottom line. Now, the reds out there, we also have to be aware, though, that we speak with a tone. I'm sure you've heard this. Tone and volume. I'm sure you've heard this.
I have a tone.
Yeah. So
I always thought it was a good tone.
He might talk. the volume, see, blues are sound sensitive, and yes, we could be friends, but he could say something to me, and I literally would say, "Why are you yelling at me?"
What?
And he'd be like, "I'm not yelling at you, I'm just telling you." And I'm like, "Now you're really yelling at me, like, why?"
Well, so we had, not long ago, I was talking to one of our staff members about something that we needed to fix, and I heard through the grapevine somebody else came back, and they were blue, and the word came back to me. It said, "He yelled at me." And I thought, yeah, you don't know yelling. I can show you yelling if you want to yell.
You're going to know when I'm yelling. Well, see, to a blue, he had already been yelling, right? And I still think it's a little comical that your pastor thinks he's blue. I've already given his wife my number. So, blue, detailed, analytical, compassionate worst. So for the blues in your life, they're going to say things like this: "I've been giving it some thought. I don't trust them. Are you sure that's safe?" These are blue words. Again, we speak right out of our temperament.
And see, my red right here, I've been told that.
Yeah.
And I'll, and I don't mean it bad, but I'm likely to say, well, could we do a little less thinking and a little more doing? Like,
okay, so there you go. Extrovert. Look, get it good. He wakes up throttled at a 12. Woo! Goes to bed probably throttled at a 12, right?
That's right.
So there you go. So again, in communication, we're learning to listen to understand. That's key, because most people listen to reply. So if you just listened to the words he uses and how he sees them, you would immediately know his temperament. And then we can do just like the verse that he had, no coincidences, love your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself, right? So as soon as Tom understands his wiring by God, and he loves the way he's wiring, and God says, I love how I wired you. When you love how I wired you, and you believe in your strengths, and you live them out, that's when you're representing me, and that's when you can pour something into your neighbor. But before that, right?
Well, even with this one, are you sure that's safe? Blue is my wife's secondary color. And I'll do some things that she doesn't think are safe.
Yes.
Like, one was bungee jumping.
Yes.
And I had told her, we had pulled up at this place in Panama City Beach one time, and they had a bungee jumping thing and putt-putt golf, and we were there to do putt-putt golf. And she said, please don't do the bungee jumping. And I said, okay, I won't do the bungee jumping. But then she went to get the tickets for putt-putt golf, and I went and got the ticket for the bungee jumping. Well, I didn't tell her where I was going, because I thought, well, maybe I can get it done before she gets back and she'll never even know. Well, as I'm climbing the ladder, I hear a lady from the bottom yelling.
Yeah.
And this is what she yelled: "If that 16-year-old delinquent hooks you up wrong, I am not changing your diaper for the next 50 years. And I just looked at the kid and said, I don't know who that crazy lady is.
Yeah. And it's funny because I just heard another one about jumping out of a plane.
Oh, yeah, I did that too.
Right. Neither things his wife or I would do, right? So and again, the stories. You felt like you were right there on the zip line with him, didn't you? But it was probably only about 6 feet off the ground or something like. Because remember, yellows exaggerate and elaborate, right? Green, sarcastic, easygoing, patient, kind words. So the greens in your life are going to say things like this: no big deal. I'm good with whatever.
Until you make that choice.
Can't wait till tomorrow.
Can you tell we've been there?
Yeah, yeah. Some people who might think they're red out there, how do these statements fall on you? Right? Hair going up on the back of your neck, right? Because again, does this sound like what a red wants to hear? No. But again, greens, they're chill people. And we have to learn to let their yes be yes and their no be no. They may not really truly care where they go to dinner.
Yeah, I think.
Right?
Yeah, you see, my daughter is green, my wife is green, and they never care until I name the place.
Yeah.
Oh, we had that yesterday.
Yeah.
But I'll go if you want to go.
Yeah, exactly.
They are. And are we through with the colors, or what's it? Pull up the next slide for me. I've already forgotten where we are. What's the next?
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I forgot where we are. Do you think that's a words that would ever come out of my mouth as a blue? Yellow, yes. Temperament determines the words you need to hear. This is the game changer. This next slide is the innate needs. This is what separates me from every assessment out there. This is what makes this temperament versus personality. Personality, again, is the what. Temperament is the why. We in communication want to learn to pause and respond to the why, not react to the what. So when you learn the innate needs, each temperament has their own. The yellow is approval, acceptance, attention, and affection. The red, loyalty, sense of control, appreciation, credit for work. The green, harmony, feeling of worth, lack of stress and respect. And the blue is safety, sensitivity, support, space, and silence. Now, in the book, I have given definitions that I've collected over 30 years because you have been trying to fill these innate needs since you were born, whether you know it or not. The more we can peel back the onion and understand your motivation for communication and behavior, then not only can you give something, but you can give grace to another person that's different than you. He's wired completely opposite than I am. But now I know, per Ephesians 4:29, do not let any unwholesome words come out of my mouth. Only what builds Tom up according to his needs and benefit all who listen. So I know right now my words have to show him loyalty, sense of control, appreciation, and credit for work. If I choose not to do that, that's on me. Because the one thing that all these temperaments share is selfishness. And Jesus was the strengths of all of them. And that's what we're striving to be. One thing as you're learning the temperaments and you're learning to apply them, I see some things as wins and losses. It would be a win if you learn to pause. You learn to speak fluent in the other language, so you leave that person feel heard and understood. A loss to me is if you use your temperament as a weapon or as an excuse. Never do we do that. And then about at this time, too, is when people will say, well, I don't want to be labeled. Okay? There's no labeling in the temperament. Usually, true, the person who says that out is a red, because they don't want to be told what to do, but I still love you, reds. Here's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be the strengths within our temperament. And once you're the strength of your temperament, some people will say, oh, she's so funny, she's yellow. Oh, he's such a great leader, oh, he's red. Oh, she's thoughtful, she's blue. Oh, he's kind, he's green. No. All temperaments can be funny. All the temperaments can be a great leader. All the temperaments can be thoughtful. All the temperaments can be kind. But you are going to do it from the core of your temperament. So what we're just trying to learn is the different languages people speak so that we can give them grace and we can celebrate the differences.
You know, I love that. Just the last several years, I think for churches, and really the whole country has been hard.
Yes.
But as a church, over the last several years, you've got so many things that came up with people at polar opposites of the extreme. And I thought, it made me come to a new place in my life where I thought, okay, if we could just learn to be kind to each other.
Yes. It will change. Yes. Just think, if you got this, if you were authentically who God made you, and you first and foremost were speaking life words over yourself so that you stayed in the strengths, and that each word that you spoke was a gift to the person that you were speaking to. Just think about it. Your children's children could live in a world where we honor and speak kindly to each other. And I believe it can happen. I mean, I truly believe that God would have stopped my journey in this message if it wasn't possible. But he never stops it.
And I know, I want to tell them something backstage that you said. That I really, I love, because, we were talking about who was going to be here today, and she said, you know what, I don't think today is a mistake.
No.
I think that the Holy Spirit put people here who needed to be here And I think that he brought you. You said, I think he brought me here on this
Yes.
particular day. This was the day that was open for me to come.
Yes, because he said something. He said, I wish I would have known this when my kids were younger. And I told him, I hear that all the time. But I truly believe our God is a God of perfect timing and order. So I am here today because this is the day I was supposed to be here. You're here today because this is when your heart and mind was open to hear the message of how uniquely designed you truly are and how you can honor people with the power of your words.
Well, let's go to number 3 there, and as we wrap up there.
Understanding temperament changes every conversation. This is it. When you decide to insert a name, when I speak to my spouse, my child, my teammate, my boss, and you consider their innate needs first, it will change every conversation. I've seen marriages change overnight. I've seen parent-children relationships restored. I've seen businesses turn on a dime. Just understanding the basics of the temperaments.
You know, just seeing, Haley was the first one, I think, who got one of the grown-ups guides that I knew about, and to kids wiring, and started putting it into practice with her 3-year-old. And, you know, and she had, you know, Haley's a yellow. We know what she's feeling.
Yeah.
And we knew that she was frustrated sometimes in communication, but she said when she got the book and she started playing it out, that just the way that she responded to Jack as a 3-year-old changed the entire conversation with her.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that with my 6-year-old grandson now.
Yeah.
That it's helping. You know,
Well, if you're gonna come this afternoon, one of the things you'll hear me say, and I believe it because I've studied it for so long, children are the purest in their temperament until the world starts telling them different. So we're adults sitting in here, so we've heard things spoke over us like, you're too loud, you're too bossy, you know, just try it, quit being so afraid. Okay, those words, think of them. This is what we're going to talk about this afternoon. They have followed you into adulthood. So if we can learn this as adults and then we can start using this with the people around us, it will change the trajectory of every relationship.
Well, show us here how this played out in your family with your 2 kids.
What I found out is it wasn't just the spoken word. Now we have technology. We have text, we have emails. The temperament goes through all of it. So this is my son. He's a blue. He's a Georgia Tech graduate. He studied abroad. This is my daughter, Avery. She's a yellow. She's a UGA grad. He studied abroad in Limerick, and this is a perfect example of temperament in text. He sent us this text. Tour was awesome. Also got to talk to somebody from the UK the whole time. It was really interesting. Just got on the bus back to Limerick safe and sound. Okay, that's a very blue statement because he just, you know, the person he talked to was interesting, but he's back safe. Now, the blues in the audience, we are not 5-star people, are we? We give 4 stars because there's room for improvement, right? The fact that he put the tour was in all caps, that had to have been a fabulous tour. Blues do not do all caps. Here's my daughter's response. Yay! I'm so thrilled to hear that. That's so cool you got to talk to somebody from the UK. I'm really glad you're back safe and had fun. Okay, those 2 last words are not blue words. You do not see had fun in Bryce's text, nor do you see any emojis, right? And
she's got more feeling at yay than he had in his whole thing.
But she also missed the awesome tour.
Oh, she did.
She connected right with the person.
She jumped straight to the stranger.
Yeah, exactly. Which wasn't a stranger. She knows no strangers. 1 minute later, my son responds this. Oh no, somebody sat next to me on the bus. The whole trip is ruined. Okay, so if you have that blue in your life, that seems like the cup is half empty, okay? I grew up hearing, Kathleen, why are you pointing out the negatives? No, blues anticipate the obstacles. And so if he was to ask me to go to lunch, I'd be like, well, is it cold? Do I need a jacket? What time will we be back? Who's going with us, right? I'm anticipating obstacles, and he's probably driving out of the parking lot without me, right?
Oh, we have forgotten our children at places before and had to go back and get them. I was just involved in the moment.
Terrified. Terrified. You're terrifying to me.
You know, one of the things that I'm taking away, and we'll kind of close down there, is this: never use your temperament as an excuse or a weapon. And
Never.
I think you hit on that, but I think maybe as a red, sometimes it's easy to say, well, that's just the way God wired me.
Yep.
And then you just let it go.
That's right.
And I love the fact that Paul says that's not right.
No, that's not right.
But that little word "let" implies we have a choice.
Every word you use is a word you choose. And that's the power of words, right?
It is. Hey, Kathleen, I just want to thank you so very much for being here. Church family, would you say thank you for her?
Thank you. Thank you.